The briefing room fell silent as the civilian translator placed her notebook on the table. The colonel's mocking smile vanished when she spoke in perfect military cadence, reciting a series of code words that no outsider could possibly know. His face drained of color as recognition dawned. Those weren't random phrases, but the exact sequence his fallen team had used on their final mission, a code never included in any report. His hands trembled as he whispered the last word, without meaning to, like muscle memory responding to a ghost. She nodded once, eyes steady, then continued translating as if nothing extraordinary had happened. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If stories of hidden valor and unrecognized sacrifice resonate with you, consider subscribing for more untold tales of extraordinary courage beneath ordinary appearances. The forward command center buzzed with activity as officers reviewed tactical maps and intelligence reports for Operation Silverline. Screens displayed satellite imagery of the target area, while communications specialists monitored encrypted channels. Colonel Thaddeus Hargrove stood at the center of it all, his decorated uniform and commanding presence drawing automatic deference from everyone in the room. Latest intelligence confirms the target is utilizing non-standard communication protocols, he stated, gesturing toward the eastern sector of the digital map, significantly more sophisticated than previous encounters. The side door opened quietly as a civilian woman entered, carrying a worn leather messenger bag. Unlike the uniformed personnel filling the room, she wore simple business attire, charcoal slacks and a navy blazer. She moved to the empty chair at the far end of the table without introduction, settling in with minimal disruption. Colonel Hargrove continued without acknowledging her presence. Intel suggests target communicating via encrypted channels, non-standard dialect variants. Only then did he offer a brief, almost reluctant gesture toward the woman. Linguistic support has been assigned. His emphasis on assigned made it clear this was not his request, but rather an imposition from higher command. Several junior officers took note of his tone, exchanging subtle glances. The briefing progressed through operational details, complex terminology flowing freely until the woman quietly corrected a technical linguistic term without drawing unnecessary attention. Colonel Hargrove paused, eyes narrowing. "Something to contribute, Ms.?" "Dr. Nyron," she replied, her voice measured and professional. "The dialect variant you were describing is Northwestern Regional, not Eastern, as indicated in your brief." Her correction was precise, factual, and delivered without challenge to his authority. Yet Hargrove's response came loaded with deliberate condescension. "Thank you for the linguistics lesson, Doctor. Now for the actual tactical situation that requires military expertise." Scattered laughter rippled through the junior officers, watching for acceptable response to the colonel's dismissal. Dr. Avriel Nyron simply nodded once and returned her focus to her materials, neither challenging the mockery nor appearing affected by it. "We will not repeat the communication breakdown from Operation Kestrel," Hargrove continued, his voice tightening almost imperceptibly on the operation name. A visible tension rippled through the room at the mention of Kestrel. Senior officers straightened in their chairs, while junior staff carefully avoided eye contact. Colonel Hargrove's hand tightened around his pen before he deliberately relaxed it, a gesture Dr. Nyron noticed and quietly noted in her book. When intercepted communications were played over the room's speakers, Avriel listened intently, making minimal notes. Her translation came immediately, delivered with precision that revealed key operational details the technical staff had missed. Brief surprise registered on several faces at both her speed and accuracy. Colonel Hargrove's acknowledgement came grudgingly. "Adequate. Continue monitoring Channel 3. The pattern of professional undermining continued throughout the briefing. When Avriel attempted to explain a critical communication pattern she had identified, Hargrove interrupted sharply. "In plain English, for those of us who actually serve, Doctor." "I am speaking plainly, Colonel. The pattern indicates—" "Save the academic analysis. Just translate what we tell you to translate." The directive was clear. Know your place. Do not overstep your role. Throughout these exchanges, Avriel remained composed, absorbing the dynamics of the room and cataloging relationships. During a moment of collective attention on the tactical display, she noticed a weathered photo visible in Colonel Hargrove's open folder, a tactical team posed against a desert backdrop. When he caught her glance, he closed the folder with unnecessary force. "Something interesting, Dr. Nyron?" he challenged. No, Colonel, just familiarizing myself with the operational framework. The unspoken boundary was established. Some things were off limits to outsiders. The tension escalated when Intelligence Officer Orion Cade entered with an urgent update. Sir, new communication pattern emerged at 0400, significant deviation from expected protocols. When the audio played, the degraded quality and complex structure left other linguistic specialists visibly struggling. Avriel's hand raised slightly, hesitation evident in her movement. Colonel Hargrove noticed immediately. Something to add, Doctor? Or is this beyond academic expertise? The room's attention shifted to her, the collective expectation of failure hanging in the air. It is a layered encryption, she explained, military terminology embedded in civilian phrasing. And you can break this encryption, I suppose? Hargrove's skepticism was palpable. When my trained specialist cannot. The challenge was explicit, setting up a public test of competence that he clearly expected her to fail. The room went quiet as Avriel listened again to the degraded audio, her eyes closing in concentration. The surface message discusses agricultural shipments, she began carefully. But the embedded communication, her expression changed subtly, recognition flickering across her features before she controlled it. Colonel, this references Operation Kestrel directly. Absolute stillness fell over the room. All eyes shifted to Colonel Hargrove, whose face had hardened into a mask of controlled fury. That is impossible, he stated coldly. Details of Kestrel are classified beyond this room's clearance. The unspoken question hung in the air, electric with tension. How did a civilian translator know about a classified operation that even most personnel in the room were not cleared to discuss? Clear the room, Colonel Hargrove ordered, voice dangerously controlled. Essential personnel only. Junior officers filed out quickly, tension thick in the air. Only the colonel, Intelligence Officer Cade, Operations Chief Larkin, Communications Specialist Wren, and Dr. Nyren remained. The door closed with a definitive click that echoed in the suddenly empty space. Explain yourself, Dr. Nyren, Hargrove demanded. How do you have knowledge of Operation Kestrel? Avriel's response came measured and careful. I was consulting for the linguistics division when Kestrel communications were processed. Impossible, the colonel countered immediately. Kestrel intel was compartmentalized. Linguistics had no access. Not officially, no. The first layer peeled back, revealing she had somehow accessed classified information outside authorized channels. The tension in the room shifted. Was she a security threat or a valuable resource? Who cleared you for that material? Hargrove's interrogation intensified. Colonel Ryerson requested specific language pattern analysis. The colonel's expression changed slightly at the name, recognition of an unexpected connection. Ryerson had no authority over Kestrel communications. Nevertheless, Colonel, he provided them, Avriel replied calmly. Perhaps you should ask why. The power dynamic had shifted subtly. The dismissed translator was suddenly not as powerless or uninformed as initially portrayed. Colonel Hargrove replayed the intercepted audio without the audience of junior officers. Translated again, word for word, no creative interpretation. Avriel's translation revealed operation details, timetable, and coordinates with a precision that could not be dismissed. Intelligence Officer Cade verified against existing intelligence. She is right, sir. This confirms our satellite data. Convenient, Hargrove remarked, skepticism unwavering. Or well-prepared. While reviewing materials, Avriel again noticed the photo in Colonel's folder. 4th Mountain Division, Special Reconnaissance Unit. Operation Kestrel's forward team. Shock momentarily broke through Hargrove's professional mask. You have exactly 10 seconds to explain how you know that. I heard them, Colonel, she replied quietly. I heard all of them, until I did not anymore. This revelation forced a reluctant shift in the operational dynamics. Despite his personal animosity, Hargrove had to acknowledge Avriel's potential value to the mission. You are on thin ice, Doctor. One misstep and you are out. I have been on thin ice since Kestrel, Colonel, she responded evenly. This is not about me. As planning for the upcoming operation continued, Avriel's insights proved increasingly valuable. Team dynamics shifted as others began to respect her contributions, though Colonel Hargrove maintained his professional distance. The infiltration team will need real-time translation support. Operations Chief Larkin observed. Hargrove's reluctance was clear in his response. That would require Dr. Nyron's direct involvement in operational communications. Throughout the command center, headsets and communication devices symbolized connection and distance simultaneously, tools that linked people physically separated, yet often failed to bridge true understanding. This motif of connection and miscommunication appeared repeatedly, reflecting the central mystery of Operation Kestrel. What had really happened to those who disappeared, and how had communications broken down so catastrophically? During a late-night planning session, with just Colonel Hargrove and Evriel remaining, exhaustion lowered barriers between them. "You blame me for Kestrel," she stated simply. "That is why you have been hostile since I arrived." "I do not know what you are talking about." "Your men died believing help was coming," she continued. "You think I am responsible for that failure." "You do not know anything about my men," he responded sharply. Meanwhile, Avriel had been accessing restricted communication archives when Intelligence Officer Cade discovered her. "This area is restricted," he warned. "I need to verify something in the Kestrel communications. Those files are sealed by direct order of Colonel Hargrove, which is precisely why I need to see them, Lieutenant." After a moment of consideration, Cade made his decision. 5 minutes, then this never happened. An unexpected alliance had formed. When the operation launched, the command center activated fully. Avriel was positioned at a communication station with a headset, while Colonel Hargrove gave final instructions. "You translate, nothing more. No initiative, no interpretation." "Understood, Colonel." The operation proceeded initially as planned, with team communications flowing smoothly until a sudden shift in enemy communications patterns triggered alarm. "They are changing encryption on the fly," Avriel reported, "similar to what happened in Kestrel." Colonel Hargrove's attention snapped to her. "Explain." "It is a counterintelligence trap, the same one that caught your team in Kestrel." The crisis demanded immediate response, as the field team was now potentially in danger. Colonel Hargrove took tactical lead, while Avriel worked frantically on translation. When enemy communications suddenly switched to yet another pattern, she froze, recognition dawning across her face. "Colonel, this is exactly what happened before your team went silent in Kestrel." "How could you possibly know that?" Hargrove demanded. "Those communications were never translated." Her quiet response landed like a bomb in the tense command center. "Because I was on the other end of the line, Colonel. I was their translator." The command center fell absolutely silent as the implications of Avriel's statement registered. She had not just analyzed Kestrel communications after the fact. She had been actively involved during the operation itself. "That is impossible," Colonel Hargrove stated, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. "Kestrel had no dedicated translator." Before Avriel could respond, urgent communications came through from the field team. Their situation was deteriorating rapidly, mirroring the Kestrel failure pattern with alarming precision. "All units fall back to secondary positions," Hargrove ordered decisively. "Do not," Avriel interrupted with unprecedented authority. "That is what they are expecting." The room went still at her direct contradiction of command. Colonel Hargrove's response came cold and measured. "You are out of line, Doctor." "Your men in Kestrel received identical fallback orders," she stated, standing and removing her civilian blazer to reveal a military-issue undershirt beneath. "It led them directly into an ambush. Those orders came directly from command. I issued them myself." "No, Colonel, you think you did." The communication was intercepted and altered. The stakes clarified instantly. History was about to repeat itself, with more lives hanging in the balance. After a moment of tense evaluation, Hargrove made his decision. "Give her the comm." "Sir, that violates protocol," Communications Specialist Wren protested. "Do it." Avriel took the headset, adjusting to direct channel with practiced ease. "Alpha Team, verify position and status." The field response came through the speakers. "Position Charlie 9, awaiting further instructions." Her demeanor transformed completely. Civilian academic persona falling away as her voice shifted to clipped military cadence. "Initiate verification protocol. Broken Arrow, Whiskey Tango, 7 Delta Niner." There was silence from the field team, then a cautious response. "No verification protocol established for this operation." "Override, Kestrel authentication." Avriel's gaze fixed on Colonel Hargrove as she spoke the next words with deliberate precision. Skyfall, echo, midnight, blackbird, avalanche. Colonel Hargrove froze at the sequence of code words, his face drained of color, recognition and shock warring in his expression. Every senior officer in the room recognized the significance of what they had just witnessed, though none understood its full meaning. The field team responded with evident confusion. "Command, please verify last transmission." Colonel Hargrove approached Avriel slowly. "That is the emergency extraction code from Kestrel, my team's private authentication sequence." "Yes." "How do you know that code? It was never in any report, never transmitted beyond my team." "Because I created it, Colonel," she replied simply. "Call sign Oracle, Linguistics and Cryptographic Support, Special Operations Command." The truth landed with seismic impact. She was not a civilian consultant, but a military specialist operating under deep cover. "You were assigned to Kestrel under classified protocol," Hargrove realized. "Officially non-existent." "Yes. And I heard your men die when the extraction plan was compromised." The complete reversal unfolded in real time. The dismissed civilian expert revealed as a classified military asset with intimate knowledge of the mission that had haunted Colonel Hargrove for years. "You are telling me you were their direct support?" The voice on the other end of the line. "Until the final transmission, yes. When communications were severed, I was officially removed from the operation." Colonel Hargrove faced his decision point. Trust her or follow standard protocol. His choice came without further hesitation. "Dr. Nyron has operational control of communications for this mission," he announced to the command center. This public acknowledgement transformed room dynamics instantly. Where before there had been dismissal and mockery, now there was focused attention and respect. Avriel and Colonel Hargrove worked in synchronized precision, her giving rapid-fire instructions to the field team that circumvented enemy interception, him coordinating tactical response based on her intelligence. The rest of the command staff followed their lead without question. The operation transformed from potential disaster to successful extraction as the field team safely navigated the trap that would have mirrored the Kestrel tragedy. When the crisis passed and the field team was safely extracted, the command center transitioned from emergency operations to standard procedures. Colonel Hargrove approached Avriel as she removed her headset. "Oracle, that was your actual designation?" "Yes, Colonel." Without word or preamble, he rendered a perfect military salute, the ultimate acknowledgement from a superior officer to a subordinate whose true value had finally been recognized. The room fell silent as other officers followed suit, one by one. Later, in a private debriefing room, Colonel Hargrove and Avriel faced the aftermath of these revelations. The room's harsh lighting created stark shadows that emphasized the tension between them, while the sterile environment mirrored the stripped-away pretenses. "You were declared KIA after Kestrel," he noted, listed among the casualties. "Officially, yes. Operational security required severing all connections." "Then why come back now? Why risk exposure?" "Because the same infiltration that compromised Kestrel is happening again," she explained. "Someone inside the command structure is passing information, and you needed to be here in person to identify them. I needed to see who recognized that code sequence, Colonel. Who reacted when it should not have meaning to anyone but your team. The first mystery, who Avriel really was, had been resolved. But two new questions emerged with even greater urgency. Who had compromised Operation Kestrel from within? And how deeply did the infiltration extend into current command structures? Colonel Hargrove paced the length of the debriefing room, processing implications. "If what you are saying is true, then someone with significant clearance has been working against us." "It is worse than that," Avriel replied. "Whoever altered your communications during Kestrel knew exactly what they were doing. The substitution was seamless, professional. Your team never realized they were receiving manipulated instructions. And you believe the same person is still active? Still in position to cause damage?" "I know they are. The communication pattern we just intercepted used the same algorithmic signature. It is not coincidence." The overhead lights flickered briefly, an external system temporarily failing before backup power engaged. This momentary instability reflected their shared realization. Systems believed secure had been compromised at the highest levels. We need to review all Kestrel communications, Hargrove decided. Everything that was transmitted that day. Most were destroyed in the official purge after the operation was deemed a failure. But you kept copies. Her slight hesitation confirmed his suspicion. Not officially. Officially is no longer my primary concern, Major. The use of her actual rank rather than her cover title marked a significant shift. The symbolic motif of communication devices reappeared, but transformed, from instruments of potential betrayal to tools for uncovering truth. The headsets and communication logs that had previously represented disconnection now offered potential reconnection with what had really happened. Through the night, they reviewed what limited records remained, constructing a timeline of the Kestrel operation. The command center emptied of non-essential personnel, leaving them isolated in a cavernous space designed for dozens. The emptiness emphasized the magnitude of what they faced, a conspiracy significant enough to have remained hidden for years. The order to fall back to Sector 7 came at 3:42, Avriel noted, pointing to the communication log. That is when everything went wrong. I gave that order personally, Hargrove insisted. It was the safest extraction route based on our intelligence. According to the satellite imagery from that day, Sector 7 was directly in the path of enemy reinforcements. It was the worst possible route. That contradicts everything I saw. The intelligence summary showed Sector 7 clear. Exactly. Someone altered the intelligence before it reached you, then intercepted and modified your extraction order to match the falsified intelligence. The implication stunned him into momentary silence. The scale of deception required to manipulate both intelligence reports and direct communications suggested involvement at the highest levels. How did you survive when the rest of the communication team was killed? He asked suddenly. Avriel's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. I was not at the main communication center. I was operating from a secondary location, running specialized linguistic analysis. When the center was hit, my remote connection was severed. By the time I re-established contact, it was too late. And they listed you as KIA to maintain operational security? That was the official explanation. In reality, I think someone realized I might have heard the actual transmissions, not the altered versions. They needed me gone. But instead, you went underground, started investigating on your own. I had heard your men die, Colonel, heard their confusion when they realized something was wrong with their extraction route. I could not let that stand. Her quiet competence throughout this explanation, the calm precision with which she recalled devastating events, created deep empathy without resorting to emotional display. The factual recounting of her 3-year quest for truth revealed more about her character than any dramatic declaration could have. As dawn approached, Intelligence Officer Cade entered the command center with updated reports. Sir, we have movement in the eastern sector, patterns consistent with what we observed before yesterday's incident. The rhythm shifted instantly from the contemplative review of past events to the urgent focus on present threat. Hargrove and Avriel moved with practiced efficiency to the tactical stations. They are testing our response, Avriel observed, seeing if we recognize their pattern. Which means they know we intercepted their communication yesterday, Hargrove concluded. They know we might be onto them. Or they are laying another trap, using our awareness against us. The tactical display showed enemy movements in real time, patterns emerging that suggested deliberate provocation rather than standard operations. Hargrove studied the display with growing concern. This is not just about compromising a single operation, he realized. This is systematic. Yes, Avriel agreed. Kestrel was not an isolated incident. It was part of a larger effort to undermine specific types of intelligence operations. What types specifically? Those targeting deep cover assets in enemy territory. The implication settled heavily between them. Someone is protecting embedded agents, or eliminating our ability to extract them. Their conversation was interrupted by communications specialist Wren's urgent approach. Sir, we have intercepted a new transmission. Same encryption pattern as yesterday. The command center refilled as day shift personnel arrived. The tactical display drew immediate attention, officers gathering to assess the developing situation. Dr. Nyron will handle the decryption, Hargrove announced, silencing any potential objections with a single look. Avriel took her position at the communication station, headset in place, focusing intently on the incoming transmission. The room fell quiet as she worked, respect replacing the previous skepticism. Her expression changed suddenly, alarm evident. "Colonel, this is a direct order to their field units. They are mobilizing against something specific." "What target?" She looked up, meeting his gaze directly. "A safe house. Designation Foxhole." The silent high-tension turning point arrived as recognition flashed across Colonel Hargrove's face. Immediately controlled, but unmistakable to Avriel, who was watching for exactly this reaction. "Foxhole is a classified designation," he stated carefully, aware of the personnel around them. "How would enemy forces know that code name?" "The same way they knew the Kestrel extraction routes," Avriel replied quietly. "Someone told them." Hargrove's decision came immediately. "Clear the room, essential personnel only." When only trusted staff remained, he continued with grim determination. "Foxhole contains 3 deep cover assets extracted last month. Their debriefing is still ongoing. Only 6 people in command have knowledge of its location and designation." "Then one of those 6 is compromised," Avriel concluded. "And given the timing of this order, they know we are getting close to identifying them." The implication was clear. The traitor was accelerating their timeline, eliminating evidence before they could be exposed. "We need to secure Foxhole immediately," Hargrove ordered. "Full tactical team, communications blackout except for direct authorization from myself or Major Nyron." As preparations began, Avriel accessed the classified personnel database. "We need to know exactly who had knowledge of both Kestrel and Foxhole." "That would be limited to senior command," Hargrove agreed. "General Winslow, Colonel Ryerson, myself, Operations Director Caldwell, Intelligence Chief Bennett, and Deputy Director Shaw." Avriel's fingers stilled on the keyboard. "Repeat that last name." "Shaw, Deputy Director Elias Shaw." "Why?" "Because according to these records, Shaw personally authorized the communication routing for Kestrel. He had direct access to alter transmission protocols." "That is standard procedure for his position," Hargrove pointed out. "Not evidence of wrongdoing." "But this is not," Avriel countered, turning the screen to show him a classified travel record. "Shaw was in Darshia the day before Kestrel launched. He did not return until after the operation. Failed." "Darshia is enemy territory," Hargrove said slowly. "No official business would take him there." "Exactly, and there is more. Shaw personally authorized my reassignment to linguistic analysis away from the main communications center the day of the operation. He is also the one who authorized listing me as KIA afterward." The evidence built rapidly, pieces falling into place with devastating clarity. "He also personally selected the safe house for Foxhole," Hargrove added grimly, "insisted on managing the security protocols himself." The command center door opened abruptly as Deputy Director Elias Shaw entered, flanked by security personnel. His timing could not have been more precise, or more suspicious. "Colonel Hargrove," he began without preamble, "I understand you have been accessing classified files related to Operation Kestrel. That investigation was closed years ago." "We have new information, sir," Hargrove replied carefully. "Potential connection to current threats." Shaw's gaze shifted to Avriel, his expression betraying no recognition despite her changed appearance. "And who is this? I do not recall authorizing civilian access to this facility during active operations." Before Hargrove could respond, Avriel turned fully toward Shaw, removing her glasses in a deliberate gesture. "We have actually met before, Director Shaw. During Operation Kestrel. I was your linguistics specialist." Shaw's reaction was microscopic, a slight tightening around the eyes, a momentary stillness quickly masked by professional composure. But it was enough. In that fraction of a second, Avriel saw what she needed, recognition followed by calculation. "I am afraid you are mistaken," Shaw replied smoothly. "I have no record of your involvement in any operation under my purview." "That is strange," Avriel commented, her tone conversational while her eyes remained fixed on his. "Because you personally signed my death certificate." The command center froze in absolute stillness as Shaw and Avriel locked eyes across the tactical display. The accusation hung in the air between them, impossible to withdraw or ignore. "I have signed many death certificates in my career," Shaw replied, voice steady but eyes calculating. "The burden of command." "Specifically mine," Avriel pressed. After Operation Kestrel, call sign Oracle. You reported me killed in action on March 17th, 3 years ago. Shaw's security detail shifted uncomfortably, sensing the rising tension. Colonel Hargrove positioned himself subtly closer to Avriel, a silent statement of allegiance. Colonel, I did not come here to discuss ancient history, Shaw deflected smoothly. I came because I received reports of unauthorized access to classified Kestrel files that remain sealed by my direct order. Sir, with respect, we have reason to believe those files contain critical information relevant to current operations, Hargrove countered, specifically a potential security breach that compromised Kestrel and now threatens Operation Silverline. What evidence do you have of this supposed connection? Shaw challenged. The exact communication pattern that preceded the Kestrel disaster has reappeared, Avriel stated. Same encryption, same algorithmic signature, same sequence of linguistic markers. And you recognize this pattern how, exactly? Because I was monitoring communications when Kestrel went dark. I heard the altered orders that sent those men into an ambush. Intelligence Officer Cade entered suddenly, tablet in hand, oblivious to the confrontation. Colonel, we have confirmation that enemy forces are mobilizing toward Foxhole. ETA 43 minutes. The revelation dropped into the standoff like a live grenade. Shaw's composed expression flickered momentarily. What is this about Foxhole? He demanded. Sir, we intercepted enemy communications specifically targeting the Foxhole safe house, Hargrove explained, watching Shaw's reaction carefully. They used the exact designation, which is known to only 6 people in command. A coincidence or security leak in the field, Shaw dismissed. Regardless, we need to evacuate those assets immediately. I will take personal command of the extraction. Already underway, sir, Hargrove replied. Major Nyron has established secure communications with the extraction team using specialized authentication protocols. The pace accelerated as Operations Chief Larkin approached with urgent updates. Sir, satellite confirms hostile movement converging on Foxhole from 3 directions. Precision suggests advanced intelligence on security protocols. Shaw's control began to slip as events spiraled beyond his manipulation. I need to speak with the extraction team immediately. All communications are running through Major Nyron, sir, Hargrove stated, as per emergency security protocol when potential command-level compromise is suspected. This is insubordination, Colonel, Shaw snapped, mask of composure cracking. I am taking direct control of this operation. With respect, sir, operational security regulations are clear, Hargrove countered. When command-level compromise is suspected, verification protocols must be established before control is transferred. The command center had filled with personnel, all watching the confrontation with growing awareness that something extraordinary was unfolding. Shaw looked around, suddenly conscious of the numerous witnesses. Very well, he conceded with artificial calm. What verification do you require? Avriel stepped forward, her entire demeanor transformed. Gone was any trace of the deferential civilian translator. In her place stood a military intelligence officer with unmistakable authority. The Kestrel Authentication Code, Director Shaw, she stated clearly, voice carrying throughout the command center. The one you personally approved for the operation. Shaw's face betrayed nothing, but his hesitation was answer enough. That code was classified. I am not authorized to speak it in an unsecured environment. Then perhaps you recall the code name for the linguistic specialist attached to Kestrel? Avriel pressed, building the public revelation systematically. The one you personally selected for the operation. I did not personally select support personnel, Shaw evaded. Strange, since you signed the assignment papers, Avriel replied, sliding a document across the tactical display. Your signature, your authorization code, dated March 14th, 3 years ago. The document projected onto the main screen, Shaw's signature clearly visible. The public nature of this revelation was now unavoidable, witnessed by the entire command staff. This proves nothing except that I processed routine paperwork, Shaw insisted, desperation beginning to edge his voice. Then explain this, Hargrove interjected, bringing up a new file on the main display. Travel authorization to Darshia under diplomatic cover, March 13th, the day before Kestrel launched. Your signature again, Director Shaw. The evidence mounted publicly, each piece displayed for all present to evaluate. The twist reveal built methodically, turning private suspicion into collective understanding. And finally, Avriel continued, producing a small communication device from her pocket. "There is this." "What is that?" Shaw demanded, though his expression suggested he already knew. "The original transmission recorder from Kestrel," she explained, addressing the room as much as Shaw. "The one that captured the actual orders you gave, not the altered versions that reached the field team." The symbolic motif of communication devices reached its visual payoff. What had begun as instruments of deception and disconnection had transformed fully into tools of revelation and accountability. The small device in Avriel's hand represented the ultimate connection between truth and falsehood, between betrayal and justice. "I maintained a separate recording channel during Kestrel," Avriel explained to the transfixed command staff. "Standard procedure for linguistic analysis. When the main communications center was destroyed, this backup preserved what actually happened." "That device should have been surrendered and destroyed after the operation," Shaw insisted. "Yes," Avriel agreed simply. "That was your order, which is precisely why I kept it." Colonel Hargrove connected the device to the main system. "Play the critical transmission, Major." The recording began, Shaw's voice unmistakable even through the static. "Redirect Kestrel team to Sector 7. Inform Colonel Hargrove that satellite shows Sector 9 compromised. Authentication code Sierra Delta 9. Followed immediately by a second transmission, this one to a different recipient. Target moving to Sector 7 as directed. Interception coordinates transmitted. Confirm elimination of all Kestrel personnel." The command center fell absolutely silent. The power reversal completed itself cleanly as Shaw's authority collapsed entirely. Security personnel instinctively moved away from him. No orders needed to recognize which side they now served. "You sacrificed an entire team," Hargrove stated, voice cold with controlled fury. "To protect what? Your asset in enemy territory?" "You have no idea what was at stake," Shaw replied, dropping any pretense of innocence. "One team against intelligence that saved thousands. Tactical decisions require sacrifice." "Not without authorization," Hargrove countered. "Not through deception of your own command structure." Communications Specialist Wren interrupted urgently. "Sir, extraction team reports they have secured all assets from Foxhole. Enemy forces arrived at the location 3 minutes after evacuation." "How did they know to evacuate ahead of schedule?" Shaw demanded. "Because Major Nyren recognized your reaction when Foxhole was mentioned," Hargrove explained. "She initiated immediate extraction protocols while we kept you distracted." The final piece clicked into place for everyone watching. The entire confrontation had been calculated to occupy Shaw, while the real operation proceeded without his interference. "Security," Hargrove ordered calmly. "Take Director Shaw into custody. Authentication code Avalanche." As security personnel moved to comply, Shaw made one desperate attempt. "This is treason. I am the ranking officer in this facility." "No, sir," Hargrove corrected. "General Winslow arrived 20 minutes ago. He has been monitoring this entire exchange from the secondary command center." On cue, the main screen activated to show General Winslow observing from a separate room. "I have heard and seen enough, Colonel. Proceed with the arrest." Shaw's expression collapsed into bitter resignation as security officers approached. The public nature of his exposure was complete, witnessed by those he had commanded and betrayed. As Shaw was escorted from the command center, the chaotic energy that had built throughout the confrontation began to dissipate. In its place came the clarity of understanding, the recognition of what had actually happened after years of deception. The command center transitioned to recovery operations, personnel returning to stations with a new sense of purpose. The crisis had passed, replaced by the methodical process of securing systems and verifying information. Avriel stood at the communication station where she had begun the day as a dismissed translator, now fully recognized in her actual role. Colonel Hargrove approached, the dynamic between them transformed beyond recognition. 3 years, he stated simply. "You spent 3 years building this case." "It was never just about Shaw," she explained. "It was about the men we lost. They deserved the truth." "They deserve better than what they got," Hargrove agreed. "From all of us." "They had you fighting for them," Avriel observed, "even when you did not know the full story." General Winslow entered the command center, his presence drawing immediate attention. Personnel stood at attention as he approached Hargrove and Avriel. At ease, he instructed. We have much to discuss about how this situation developed and remained undetected for so long. Sir, with respect, the more urgent matter is the network Shaw established, Avriel suggested. He could not have operated alone. Agreed, Major. That investigation begins immediately, with you and Colonel Hargrove taking point. The formal acknowledgement of her rank and role, delivered in front of the entire command staff, completed her transition from outsider to essential team member. As the immediate crisis response wound down, personnel began to disperse to their assigned tasks. The command center emptied gradually until only Avriel, Hargrove, and a skeleton crew remained. I spent 3 years believing I had sent my men to their deaths through bad intelligence or poor planning, Hargrove admitted quietly, carrying that responsibility. And I spent 3 years knowing they had been deliberately sacrificed, but unable to prove it or bring them justice, Avriel replied. We both carried different pieces of the same burden. Reflection replaced tension as they stood together at the tactical display, now showing the successful extraction of the foxhole assets. The mission that had begun in confrontation and suspicion had ended in shared purpose and mutual respect. Days later, the command center prepared for a new operation. The layout remained the same, but the dynamic had transformed entirely. Avriel now wore her proper uniform, with Major's insignia, her position at the central tactical table unquestioned. Colonel Hargrove entered, nodding to personnel as he passed. Status report, Major? Assets secured. Network analysis underway, she reported. We have identified 3 more potential compromised positions within command structure. The scene echoed the opening imagery with deliberate reversal. Where once there had been dismissal and mockery, now there was collaboration and respect. The structural elements remained unchanged, while the human elements had transformed completely. We will need linguistic analysis of these communications, Hargrove noted, indicating a set of intercepted transmissions. The dialect variants are complex. Already underway, sir, Avriel confirmed. Initial results suggest connections to Shaw's network in 3 separate command centers. The moral resonance of their interaction required no dramatic declaration. The simple dignity of professionals, united by shared purpose after years of division, spoke more powerfully than any speech could have. As they reviewed intelligence reports together, a weathered photo fell from Hargrove's folder, the same tactical team photo Avriel had noticed on her first day. This time, however, he did not hide it away, but instead placed it deliberately on the table between them. 4th Mountain Division, Special, Reconnaissance Unit, he said. They deserve to be remembered for more than how they died. Then let us make sure of it, Avriel replied quietly. That evening, after the command center had emptied for the night, Avriel remained at her station, reviewing communication patterns with the same meticulous attention she had always brought to her work. The difference now was that her expertise was recognized and valued rather than dismissed. Colonel Hargrove returned with 2 cups of coffee, placing one beside her without comment. The simple gesture acknowledged their new partnership without need for elaboration. We identified 2 more compromised communication protocols, she reported. Shaw's influence extended further than we initially thought. But not beyond our ability to correct, Hargrove observed. As they worked into the night, the command center's lighting dimmed to evening settings. The communication stations continued their silent operations, screens displaying the constant flow of information that connected their facility to operations worldwide. Where once these communication devices had represented disconnection and deception, they now symbolized the reconnection of truth to action, of intention to outcome. The systems that had been used to betray loyal soldiers now served to protect them through transparency and accountability. The final image showed Avriel and Hargrove standing at the memorial wall where photos of the fallen Kestrel team were displayed. In Avriel's hand was a small recording device, not the one that had exposed Shaw, but a new one. For the official record, she explained, their actual mission, their actual actions, their actual sacrifice. No more classified lies. They would appreciate knowing someone was still listening, Hargrove said, that someone still heard them. The memorial wall reflected the soft light of dawn beginning to filter through high windows, the day cycle beginning again, but fundamentally different from all the days that had come before. The truth now stood acknowledged, not just in classified files, but in the open recognition of sacrifice and service. Have you ever encountered someone dismissed or underestimated until a critical moment revealed their true value? The most profound expertise often comes without fanfare or credentials. It simply reveals itself when needed most. The heroes who shape our world frequently work without recognition. Their impact felt long before their names are known.